Hard ones.
I knew you were going to ask me that.
I'm Devin Schmid.
And I'm Tommy Evans. We're from DROIDS Recording Studio, and in this one, we are shooting the Devin and I are audio engineers that specialize in heavy music, and we make videos about the recording and the mixing process of that. If this is something that you're into, that's awesome. Thank you. Hit the subscribe button and tap that little bell icon so that you get notified every time we post something new. So what Devin and I have done are we've created 3 questions to ask each other. The other one doesn't know what the questions are yet, so these are going to be the first time we're hearing the questions asked from each other. It's going to feel kind of like a loose podcast conversation kind of a style. All the questions are about recording and mixing, of course, because that's what the channel is about. But I think, Devin, did I explain that well enough?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, well then let's get started. Do you want to do your first one?
I will start. All right, Tom. How much attention do you pay to gain staging and why?
How much attention do I...
Hard ones.
I knew you were going to ask me that. How much attention do I pay to gain staging? Not a great deal, but I know that it exists and I know how important it is. I think in my template, I've got everything kind of built in to where the output is all at a certain level. So basically, when I drop any guitars in there, after about 2 seconds of tweaking, they're going to be hitting, you know, -12 or -18 or whatever. That's just how I've set it up. I guess what I'm saying is gain staging is very important. And maybe I should pay more attention to it, but the level of detail that I give it now doesn't suck.
Okay.
Fair enough?
So you just adjust your preamp real quick, make sure the levels are there, and just kind of go with the flow.
Yeah, exactly. I know that if my guitars are hitting at 0 dB on the output, I know that's messed up. So obviously I just avoid big no-nos like that, bring everything down, and then I can turn it up later as one whole big puzzle.
Okay, my turn.
Go ahead. All right, it's my turn to ask you. Your turn to answer. All right, Devin, my question number 1 is, how do you know when a mix is done?
One of my mixes, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Not one of yours?
One of mine is never done.
That's what I was going to say is, at least for somebody else, I can tell when somebody else's mix is done because to me, I don't see anything wrong with it. With my own mix, it's almost impossible to know when a mix is done because you're always going to hear something that you feel like you can do better, and you're always going to want to give the mix something that you think will make it even better than it was before. And it's just a never-ending process. You've really got to, A, ask somebody else what they think of it, and B, commit. Understand that, you know, this is really good and I can fine tweak, but I'm not going to because I will be at this for the rest of my life if I do that. So I guess I know when a mix is done when either A, you've told me it's good, and B, I've heard it and I know it's good, and everything that I'm worried about is nitpicking.
Okay, got it. Good answer. I think I read somewhere, can I add a little bit?
Of course.
I think I read somewhere that when you reach the point of your mix, when you're making changes and things stop sounding better and they start sounding different, that's when the mix is done.
Okay, because all you're really doing is changing things. You're mixing at the same level, but all you're doing is just making it sound different.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not better, it's different.
So when the moves that you're making are no longer improving the mix, but simply changing the mix.
Moving over instead of up.
Yeah, if you're doing lateral moves, that's when the general consensus is that you're done. It sounds like that's kind of what you do too.
Okay.
That's what I do.
Sounds accurate.
Sweet.
You ready for yours?
You're up, buddy.
Okay. Are you a one EQ plugin fits all type of guy, or do you use different kinds of EQs for different situations and different purposes?
Yeah, okay. So, no, one EQ does not fit all. Basically, from the top down, there's a Q10 on my master.
It's a Waves product.
Every single time there's a Waves Q10 on the master because it lets me suck out some super small notches.
Super Q, skinny Q.
That a lot of other plugins don't let me do. And let's see, where else are we going? I always use the Waves API. I forget which one it is, the 550A or the 550B. They look the same, but
I do that too.
Yeah, right. I never know which one it is when I pull it over.
And I've always got the wrong one first.
Just like plugging in your USB drive.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, wrong. Yes, the same thing. So Q10 on the master, Waves API 550 something on vocals, because it's got a vocal preset on there that I've tweaked a little bit and just sounds good on every vocal that I put it through. And general high pass, low pass on guitars and bass and stuff, that's just the stock Studio One. I use Studio One for all my stuff. I use the stock Studio One Pro EQ just for general filtering, and it's very CPU light, so I don't have to worry about it taking up a lot of space and RAM.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors.
That's a good question.
Processing. Yeah, and I agree. I use sometimes one thing, like even guitars or vocals. I'm like, well, I need 4 different kinds of EQs. I need this one to suck out a really annoying frequency. I need this one to make a broad boost. I need this one because it's linear EQ and I want everything to stay in phase. But yeah, we can get really in detail with that question. So
Yeah,
we'll move along.
Guess it's my turn to ask you, brother.
Yeah.
Okay. So all I wrote down was mixing on headphones versus mixing on monitors. And you can take that to mean whatever you want. Do you want to give me like the pros and cons of each? Do you think one is better than the other?
My personal opinion, not for me only. This is not, I mean, some people exclusively mix on headphones. I never mix on headphones. I only mix on studio monitors. And that's because sometimes, specifically if I listen on studio speakers and I think, wow, this mix sounds terrible, like, and then I put my headphones on, and even though they're not supposed to be colored, I listen, I'm like, wow, this mix sounds sick. And then I take it off, and I'm like, wow, my studio speakers, like, this mix just sounds like it needs so much work. And because of that reason, I do not use headphones. I feel like I can hear things much better through my speakers, and headphones just make everything sound great.
Fine. Yeah, good answer. Do you think that's because you've learned what your speakers sound like, and you've learned the moves that you need to make for your mix to translate well everywhere else?
Probably. I know what my speakers sound like, and I know where, when I hear things, I know what to adjust. But when I listen to headphones, that same exact problem frequency, I might either barely hear it or not hear it at all. And I'm thinking, what? So if I export it and I put it in my car and I listen, I'll still hear that same problem frequency, but I didn't hear it in my headphones. And I have a good pair. I don't know what they are, but they're like $300, and they're not supposed to be colored. So for me, that's always just said, okay, speakers. I'll use headphones for if I have to be quiet and I'm doing something that doesn't require a whole lot of attention to detail, like just general levels, then I might use headphones if I have to be quiet. But otherwise, if I got speakers available, that's what I'm doing.
Fair. Cool. Fair enough. All right. You got one for me?
Yep.
I'm reaching over to my phone like I'm going to ask you again.
Are you a proponent of using EQ on your master bus, or do you believe all EQ issues should be handled in the mix?
No, yeah, EQ on the master for sure. If you know who Nolly Get Good is, bass player in Periphery, bounce, bounce, chicka, bounce, bounce. He does a lot of mixing and mastering as well, and he's got this top-down approach nailed down, basically. He's, maybe we'll link to the video up here as well where he teaches you his mastering chain, but it's actually sick. And I did kind of my own version of his mastering chain on my mastering chain on one of them, and it's a lot of high shelves, it's a couple of cuts here and there, whatever. You'll watch the video, or if you see our template video coming up soon, you'll see it as well. But yeah, there's a lot of EQ on the master, high shelf, some narrow cuts, a high pass down somewhere down in the 30, 35-ish range. But that doesn't mean that you don't EQ the individual tracks as well. I think I've got an EQ on every single track and every single bus, at least doing a high pass around 30-something, just because my OCD says I don't want anything below 32, for example, getting out of the master. 32 is arbitrary, but I think you understand. So my answer to your question of EQ on the tracks or on the master, yes.
Yes.
Cool. Here we go. Devin, I got one more for you, buddy.
Okay. I'm going to try real hard to answer it.
All right, Devin. How many plugins do you own that you never use?
How many plugins do I own that I never use?
Yeah.
Not many.
Really?
Yeah. I have an extensive list of plugins, and I use a lot of them for various situations. I might not use them in every single project, but for the most part, well, let me break this down. Instrument-wise, I use every one of my virtual instruments. Plugin-wise, the The only plugin I can think of that I own that I completely took out of my DAW because I don't use it was oh no, that is an instrument. It's not a plugin. It's some drum machine.
Superior Drummer?
Superior Drummer, yeah. I had bought Superior Drummer, and I had loaded up a sample, and when I first started playing them, I thought, these sound great, and then I started putting them in my mixes, and I didn't like where they were going, and I tried it several times, and I just could never find a situation where I really liked them enough to keep them, so I wasted all that money.
So you bought Superior Drummer, ended up not fitting with your workflow, and then you ditched it.
Yeah, it didn't work with my workflow, and this sample-wise, it didn't fit with what I hear in my head when I'm trying to make my mixes, so I said, I'm not using this.
And you use every single other plugin that you own?
At some point. I feel like if I loaded it up and expanded every single thing and went through it, there is probably... I've used every plugin I own at least a couple times, and situationally, I will use all of them for one reason or another.
Wow.
Because if I don't need them, I delete them. You know me. If I have extra files in Dropbox, I delete them. And I'm like, what is this crap? Delete it. It's taking up space. I'm the same way with my DAW.
Okay. Wow.
My DAW.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Is that all our questions?
I think so. That is it. If you want your music mixed by us here at Droids Recording Studio, hit up any of the links in the low end, and we'll get with you.
Until next time, always use your blinker and change your strings.
And that includes your bass strings.
I felt weird when I put my drink down.
Okay. Because I have a booger one from my nose into my throat, and I didn't want it to sound stupid. Freaking beta-alanine.
Well, I got all my pre-workout in.
Yeah, me too. I feel it.
You ready to go work out?
All right. Big time.
Word.
Man, I am so tingly right now. I haven't had beta-alanine in at least a month, so I'm kind of like...